The golden hue of dawn had barely crept across the skyline when Officer Mason Hart received the transmission that would forever change the trajectory of his career. He was sipping the last of his lukewarm coffee, his cruiser idling at the edge of West Harbor Boulevard, when the radio crackled to life. Unit 23, be advised. All patrols, be on the lookout for a silver four-door sedan, license plate Delta 9 Kilo for 82. Vehicle reported stolen early this morning and believed to be involved in an attempted armed robbery near the Union Street Market. Last seen heading northbound past downtown. Mason's posture stiffened. He tossed the empty coffee cup into the passenger seat and gripped the steering wheel, his eyes scanning each passing vehicle with renewed intensity. A silver sedan came into view, rolling through the intersection just ahead. His breath caught. The plate number was eerily close. D9K for 82. Without hesitation, Mason flipped on his lights and gave a brief, sharp chirp of the siren. The sedan hesitated for a moment before easing to the curb. His adrenaline surged, not with fear, but with purpose. This might be it. This could be the break that landed a serious perpetrator and earned him recognition in the department. He parked behind the vehicle and stepped out, his right hand instinctively resting on the holster at his hip. The morning was unusually quiet for the city, the sounds of traffic and waking life muffled as if the air itself anticipated conflict. The driver's side window rolled down halfway. A woman in a tailored charcoal suit looked out, confusion flickering in her dark brown eyes. "Good morning, officer," she said, her voice calm but slightly strained. "May I ask why I've been stopped?" Mason barely acknowledged her greeting. "Is this your vehicle, ma'am?" "Yes, of course," she replied, her brow creasing further. "I'm just heading to work. License and registration." "Now," Mason ordered. She exhaled slowly and reached into her handbag, retrieving a slim leather wallet. "May I at least know what this is about?" "This car was reported stolen and linked to criminal activity this morning," Mason said firmly. "Step out of the vehicle, hands where I can see them." "What?" Her voice rose slightly, still controlled but incredulous. "That's ridiculous. This is my car. I haven't done anything wrong. I said step out. Now." She didn't move right away, her hand still on the ID she was trying to hand him. That moment of pause, perhaps instinctual or perhaps simply shocked hesitation, was enough. Mason reached for the door, yanked it open, and grabbed her by the arm, pulling her out onto the sidewalk. "You are under arrest for grand theft auto," he announced, snapping the handcuffs around her wrists in one fluid motion. The woman stared at him, too stunned to struggle. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" "I don't care who you are, lady," he replied with a tight smirk. "You're coming with me." She met his eyes, voice low and clear. "I'm Judge Renata Langston." Mason snorted. "Yeah? And I'm the Chief Justice." "Save it." He guided, more like shoved, her toward the back of the patrol car, opening the door and pushing her inside. Then he radioed in. "Dispatch, this is Unit 23. I've got the suspect in custody. Female, mid-40s, wearing a dark suit. Vehicle matches description of reported stolen silver sedan. Requesting backup and verification." As the minutes ticked by, Mason stood next to the cruiser, arms folded. The early morning calm had fully given way to city noise, cars rolling by, a nearby bus hissed to a stop. Then another patrol vehicle pulled up behind him. Out stepped Sergeant Luis Ramirez, a respected veteran with 20 years on the force and eyes that missed nothing. Ramirez approached, his expression professional. "What's the situation?" Mason gestured toward the cruiser. Silver sedan matched the plate from the bolo. Suspect was uncooperative. "I've got her in custody." Ramirez glanced toward the car, where the woman sat upright, her expression unreadable behind the window. As he got closer, recognition flared in his eyes. "Wait a second," he muttered. "Hart, do you even know who that is?" "No. Why?" Ramirez swore under his breath. "That's Judge Langston, one of the top federal judges in the Northern District. She's been on the bench over a decade. You just arrested a sitting judge." The air seemed to change around them. Mason's spine locked, his pulse thudding in his neck. "You're kidding." "I'm dead serious," Ramirez snapped. "Unlock the cuffs. Now." Mason opened the back door with trembling fingers. "Ma'am, Your Honor." But she stepped out before he could finish. Her gaze didn't tremble, didn't even flicker. She raised her cuffed hands. "Remove them." He fumbled with the key. I didn't know. I was following protocol." "That's the problem," she said evenly, her voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "You weren't listening. I told you this was my vehicle. I offered my ID. You arrested me anyway." Ramirez stepped in. Judge Langston, on behalf of the department, I deeply apologize. We'll escalate this immediately. Please know this isn't reflective of how we operate. Langston rubbed her wrist once the cuffs came off, her expression composed but cold. Officer Hart treated me like a common criminal. He humiliated me on the street. And worse, he didn't even pause to verify. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a failure of judgment. Ramirez nodded. Yes, ma'am. It will be investigated. You have my word. Langston gave him a nod. I'll be contacting Police Chief McAdams within the hour. I expect accountability. With that, she retrieved her handbag from the passenger seat, adjusted her blazer, and stepped into her car with quiet dignity. Mason stood paralyzed on the curb, watching her drive away. Every ounce of confidence he had that morning had evaporated, replaced by a sinking weight in his chest. Ramirez didn't say anything for a moment. Then, without looking at him, he muttered, "You better prepare yourself, Hart. This won't end well for you." The words echoed in Mason's head for the rest of the day. News spread fast. By noon, everyone at the precinct had heard. Hart arrested a judge became the punchline of hallway whispers and half-hearted jokes. But when Chief McAdams summoned him for a private meeting, the mood turned somber. The chief's office was silent except for the sound of a digital clock ticking and the low hum of the air conditioning. McAdams, a stoic man with decades of public service etched into the lines of his face, motioned for Mason to sit. "You know why you're here." "Yes, sir," Mason said quietly. The chief held up a file. "This isn't just about bad optics, Officer Hart. You unlawfully detained a federal judge. You used force without adequate verification. There are implications here, legal, political, reputational. I had a bolo on a vehicle," Mason began, "and the plates were close, not exact. You didn't even run them before pulling her out. That alone is enough to raise eyebrows. And you arrested her despite her offering documentation. Do you understand how many steps you skipped?" Mason stared down at his hands. "I thought I was doing the right thing. Then maybe this job isn't right for you." The chief's tone was blunt. "You're on immediate administrative leave, pending a formal investigation. Internal Affairs will be in touch." Mason left the office in a haze, his world tilting. Judge Renata Langston was a woman of integrity, but she had seen enough over the years to know when silence did more harm than good. The following week, she stood before a press conference, her hands resting lightly on the podium. "This incident was not about me," she said, her voice calm. "This is about how quickly we assume guilt, how easily we overlook truth in the name of authority. I was lucky to walk away unscathed, but how many others have not?" Her words ignited conversations across the city, on talk shows, in town halls, and most notably, within the police department itself. Mandatory retraining seminars were quietly introduced. A community oversight board, long delayed in planning stages, was finally fast-tracked. And Mason Hart? He spent weeks in limbo, waiting for a verdict on his future. He thought about resigning more than once. But when the internal review was completed, he was offered a choice: resign voluntarily or accept a 6-month probation with a transfer to the Community Outreach Division. He took the transfer. It was there, walking the neighborhoods instead of patrolling them, listening to residents instead of surveilling them, that Mason began to understand just how deeply the cracks in the system ran, and how much work it would take to mend them. He never forgot Judge Langston, never forgot her words. And from that day on, whenever he saw a silver sedan, he made sure to look twice, not with suspicion, but with humility. End of story.